first exercise in the I Create What I Believe program is called Just Scribble. It actually has 3 versions. The first one is called Individual Hands. And we work with first our non-dominant hand and then our dominant hand. And it really is trying to experientially feel the art of self-reflection. And where this comes from is there's a Dr. Gabor Mate, who is a foremost authority on trauma.
Right, Gabor Mate, right.
You know who he is.
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. Okay. And he said, it's not the situation that causes the trauma.
Right.
What happens inside of the individual to handle the situation causes the trauma. And then he went on to be even more specific. He said, we're talking about disconnecting from your soul. Mm-hmm. So when we're young, our whole system works more sensorially. I mean, we experience life. We don't maybe understand it cognitively because the conscious mind isn't activated fully until somewhere around 7, 8 years old, something like that. So, but the time prior to that, we are experiencing, but we're doing it through our senses. So the first exercise, the individual hands, is helping you get back to that place of remembering what you felt like, what life felt like, and learning how to integrate that experience back into your life now as an adult. Now, one of the things that I say at the end of each video is I say, if you have a question, send me the email your question to me, and I will answer your email in the class. So if this past week, a woman by the name of Frances sent me a question. She was talking about her experience when she scribbled with her non-dominant hand and her dominant hand, and the different qualities and the different shaped lines that it brought forth. And she also talked about how when she started doing it, she found herself crying. And it first it was with the dominant hand, and then also with the non-dominant hand. Did you have a question? No. Okay. And she was saying, do I need to know what is going on in the subconscious mind? And my answer is no. Yes. All you really need to do is with the first 2 activities, and we'll do a little refresher, and then we'll move into what's today's 2 hands, is that all you need to be focusing on is what shaped lines, what patterns that you draw with your non-dominant hand or your dominant hand that can move you into your subconscious mind. Move you out of your subconscious mind into your conscious mind. And so how do you know you're in your conscious mind? Well, the minute we activate the conscious mind, our brain starts dumping oxytocin and dopamine into our system. Those are the feel good. So what happens is, you start feeling more joy or pleasure. So when we're doing the activity, I say, ask yourself, what feels the best? What makes me the happiest? And so Frances said, well, I really didn't feel, the experience wasn't really happy or joyful. But she said, I could feel myself getting more settled, more still, more present. And I said, that's adequate. You don't have to have all the fireworks and the balloons and all of that in the beginning. All you're trying to do is see if you can find the pattern that you're non-dominant or your dominant does that actually moves you from your reactive mind into the conscious problem-solving mind. And why is that important? Well, according to Bruce Lipton, is that all of the tapes that we acquired in our early years are stored in the subconscious mind. And these two parts of our mind are conscious and our unconscious, work in an either or capacity. So merely finding the pattern that moves you into your conscious mind or activates your conscious mind, then automatically suspends all of those tapes. They're all unplugged. As long as you're here, they're unplugged. So that is the simplest way to be able to move out of patterns or beliefs and perceptions that are hindering you. So today we're going to do, I think we'll do one round of the individual hands, but then we're going to work with two hands. And it's a whole different experience. And if you think about that, when you're doing the two hands, you're getting both hemispheres of your brain working together. And that, you can see the power of that. When you see an athlete, you see somebody doing gymnastics, or that all parts have to be working together. In the same way, if we want to be whole human beings, we have to have all parts of us working together. Questions so far? No?
Works. Makes sense.
Okay, great. Okay, so what I want you to do is that we're going to close our eyes. And the reason we're closing our eyes is so that we're not making decisions on what we see or we have previously perceived. So you're going to close your eyes, and then you're going to allow. Notice I didn't say do or make happen. I said allow your non-dominant hand to scribble any way it wants. And when you find a pattern, be it circular, it can be circles, it can be clockwise, counterclockwise, it can be straight lines that go horizontal or vertical, but pay attention to the detail, because a horizontal line can impact your body differently if you're going from the right to the left versus the left to the right. It can affect you very differently if it's going from the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom.
So we
So
do this with eyes closed, you're saying?
eyes closed, because I want you just to sense and feel what each movement does. And all you're wanting to do is get a sense of which hand can activate your conscious mind quicker and more thoroughly, and what pattern. So it's which hand, which pattern. So you're going to do just a very short dip into the water here. Try the activity with your non-dominant, then do it with your dominant. And then when you're done, just raise your hand, and we'll talk a little bit, and we'll move right into the two hands. All right. So close your eyes, do the activity.
I'm not sure what am I identifying?
Well, I'm wanting to know, was it easier for you or more pleasurable for you to use your non-dominant hand or your dominant hand? And what pattern did you find helped the best?
So my non-dominant hand is much more erratic and all over the place.
Your non-dominant, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It's a lot of circular.
good.
My dominant hand is much more defined shapes.
Okay. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more comfortable in my dominant hand.
Because you're more comfortable there.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so when you were doing the non-dominant hand, did you feel lighter or softer, or, I mean,
I mean, maybe a little bit freer, like less, but I was actually worried, like, am I going to go off the paper? Because I'm not seeing and I'm not.
right. Okay, so there's a solution for worrying about going off the paper. And this has to do with a version of this activity, which I call air crayons. And if there's been this other thing called air guitar over the years where, so it's like you have a pretend crayon
Right.
and you have a pretend paper.
Hmm.
And I even encourage people to do this standing up so their whole body can get into it. And you just let it be as big and as wild as you want. It'll probably it might look a little bit like the hippies dancing in the 60s. But it's finding the movement that helps you connect with that part of your mind. So, Stephanie.
Yeah, I think my non-dominant hand, was also more going everywhere, a lot of circles and curves, and my dominant hand at the moment just seems these sort of flowy lines while going from the bottom to the top, and it just seems to help me breathe. It lines up with my breathing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because, I'm talking about, feelings of pleasure, but it just can be just being settled in yourself. It's that so much of our training we're taught to move through life in a linear way. And this is bringing back in the sensorial awareness and perspective on life. And so helps you become more whole. So I'm going to immediately jump us into the two hands. Now, this is a little difficult to do over Zoom, but I'm going to attempt. So when you do the two hands, you want to start off with two crayons. And if you don't have two crayons, then you can do two of something else. In this activity, you want both hands moving at the same time. They don't have to be doing the same thing, but it's not like this one does something and then this one does something and then this does something and then that does something. It's that you want them both, like I said, it's a little hard. You want them both to be moving at the same time. And it doesn't matter. One part can be like this, and this could be circular and soft, or it can be similar, whatever. The important thing is to find a rhythm, find a movement that helps you feel, maybe more air. It's like you talk about breathing better and allowing yourself to move from the constraints of the linear mind and moving into the relaxation of being your authentic self. So that's a big leap, but it happens in little tiny increments. So what I'm wanting you to do, once again, close your eyes. You can do air crayons if you don't want to wrestle with the crayons and the paper. But what I want you to do is I want you to have just close your eyes. And then I want you to experiment with moving both hands simultaneously. And know that they can move any way they want, but you're paying attention to what movements moves you from maybe tension to relaxation. And before you open your eyes, ask yourself, did you find the non-dominant hand, the dominant hand, or both hands together the best? Yes, Suzanne, what did you find?
I think my dominant hand, I noticed the quality of the drawing. It pressure I put on the pen to the paper is much darker. It's much more pronounced.
Uh-huh.
It's
And
stronger. It seems stronger.
it seems stronger. Do you feel, and do you feel like that strength permeates your system? Or
Yeah.
fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. And then what shape lines does it like?
They like circular.
Circular, okay. So one of the things I tell people is, it's important to learn the exercise, but more important is how do you adapt it and utilize it in your daily life? And also how did you despise it? And so one of the things I talk about is how for many years I spoke at conferences, and if anyone watched me talk, that my hands were always moving. And they didn't know why they were, I mean, they just thought I talked with my hands a lot, but I was moving them purposely because I knew that horizontal movements versus vertical movements versus circular movements, I knew how that helped my body feel and experience and be present. So you're starting on the paper, but eventually you're going to move it. You can do it with your finger on your hand or your leg, or you can do, a bigger movement, but take that motion that you find makes you feel more stronger and more integrated, and integrate it into your daily movements. I mean, it can be, you can be doing while you're vacuuming or you're wiping the counter or you're filing paper. I mean, there's all kinds of ways, but intentionally add those movements and see how that impacts your life.
It's the proverbial running in circles.
It is. I mean, one of the ways that I look at it, is that, in Tai Chi,
Yes, it's very slow.
every single motion is designed to affect the body or certain organs in a certain way. Well, here you're going to create your own private Tai Chi. And it just means you don't have to spend a lot of years training to know how to do that. But, ultimately, if the straight lines or the vertical lines or the circular lines move you into a better place, then that's your movement. Stephanie.
I really enjoyed doing the two hands together. I found that interesting. Initially, my non-dominant hand sort of wanted to go a bit wilder, but then they just, as time went on, they just came together and they just really wanted to be together, and it became more still and maybe smaller, and that made me feel very peaceful.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's a word you're looking at. You're looking forwards to is peaceful.
Yeah.
So, I might say what feels the best or what makes you feel more joy. You know the word that your system needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when somebody, when it's the two hands, it really means that your movement, at least from my perspective, your movement needs to be integrated on, all sides. Rudolf Steiner in his education talked about before you introduce letters or numbers, you need to activate all four limbs. And so that's what we're doing. Meaning that if you want to get really silly, take your shoes off and you can do it with your toes. I've had students do that in classrooms where they just, because what you're trying to do is get the system back working together the way it was before you hit a situation that was even just marginally traumatizing. Because you think about when you look at something that startles you, we hold our breath. We hold our breath and we stop the flow of the chi and the fluids in our system. So this is a way to get them to move together again. You know, but what is good for Stephanie or good for me or good for Suzanne, it's all different.
Right. But I have
Yeah.
a question because
Yes.
I noticed too, and I'm curious, Stephanie, if you found this, when the two hands were going together, they were quickly wanting to be synchronized.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yes.
you used the word integrate, and I was thinking like they're synchronizing, like they're
Well,
both.
they are synchronizing.
Yeah.
They're moving together. You're just really, really, really moving together and finding that way to move together.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think the synchronizing is an important word, but you don't want to have your mind say we're going to synchronize.
No, no, no. It just happened. It was real.
Yes, that's what you want. You want it to just happen because, you know, you're resetting, you know, this is like hitting the refresh button on your computer.
Right. Yeah.
And it's so easy. You know, it's so easy to get knocked out of alignment, but it's equally as easy to get back in alignment. And so,
I have a question when you're here.
yeah, go on, go
I'm
for it.
wondering how I would integrate. I can see how you might talk with your hands, but how I might integrate the two hands. I could do it at home when no one's looking, but if I was out, it might look a bit strange.
Okay, so you're probably familiar with Brain Gym.
Yes, I do know brain gym.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what the principle of Brain Gym is to getting everything working together through movement. So, you know, you say, how could you disguise this out in public? Well, you could just stretch.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You know, you could lean over and touch your knees or your toes. And in doing that, you know, your face is, you know, facing you, and you can just take a really good breath and then bring yourself back up again. But just the whole, you know, you're sitting at a desktop to get up and stretch and breathe for a couple of minutes is, you know, it's not going to be
Yeah.
questioned. Probably
No.
everyone else will say, wow, that looks like it feels good. I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Got it.
yes, I mean that,
Yeah.
you know, we have jumping jacks, we have all kinds of things, but the main thing is what feels the
Yes.
best. Yeah, because
Mm.
what you're talking about is which muscles are you activating? Which
Mm.
muscles are going to give you that sense of clarity and solidness and confidence,
Mm.
and in a relaxed way, not a pushing, not,
Yeah.
and it's really important before we finish today is that to remember our body is designed to entrain or synchronize itself with its environment. Well, if you're in an environment that is really stressful or chaotic or counterproductive or a negative, you don't want to be in training with that. So the truth of the matter is we have two environments. We have the external one, and when the external one is not desirable, we connect with the internal environment, and that's your soul. And so it looks like we're scribbling on paper or we're stretching, but what we're really doing is trying to activate the conscious mind so that we are connected to our soul. And then the insanity that's going on outside of us doesn't have to affect us.
Mm.
And that, to me, it's very, very simple, but practice it, integrate it, find where you want to use it. And just remember, you know, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. and there isn't any right or wrong, but how you know it's right for you or wrong for you is how you feel,
Mm.
is how you feel. So it's getting back in touch with that radar that's natural, natural to all of us. So, any other questions?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
it makes so much sense, but
Yes.
it's very interesting how, like in formal schooling, we move away from it. Like you mentioned Rudolf Steiner with the Waldorf schools
Yeah.
approach, which is dramatically different than most, at least in the US, most K through 12 schools.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Mm.
But it, once again, it's just, it's how the educational system and even the work situation and it has grown, and it's got to the point, it's kind of like the barrel going over Niagara Falls. I mean, it's got so far out there that now we need to find a way to pull ourselves back from that drama.
Mm.
That's not our drama, that's theirs.
Mm.
And if you can do that, then just your frequency, that's what Eckhart Tolle talks about, is being in the now. Is that what we're talking about, is showing you how to sensorially, so it's not just your mind, but your body and your breath, all is present. And when that happens, just your presence alone impacts people in a positive way. So this is a gift for yourself, but it's also a gift for the universe.
Yes.
Anything else, ladies?
No, it's really interesting.
Well,
No,
good.
that's
Yeah, go on.
that's all good.
Huh?
No, I just said no, that's good, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Suzanne, go to the I Create What I Believe website, and you can, there's going to be the place where it says drawing in the now, and you can push that button. It says learn more. And
Okay.
then what you're going to see is at the bottom of the page is the class 1 and 2. And then later on this week, number 3 will be there. But just listening to it, you could even just listen to it on your phone, you don't have to see the pictures. But it'll help bring all these pieces together. Yes, it's incredibly simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Nice to
Okay,
meet you,
and
Stephanie.
next class is we meet on the 1st and the 3rd Monday. So the next class would be on March 4th.
Okay.
And as Stephanie, thank you for sharing your pictures. Those were really, really lovely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing something with them after, beyond the exercise.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Pleasure.
pleasure. See you guys in 2
Yeah.
weeks. Bye-bye.
Thank
So much.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.